Hello and welcome to another video for the sixaxis.com. I'm Stefan and today I am once again talking about Gearbox Software's Battleborn. Now, for a lot of fans of their previous big hit series Borderlands, the cooperative story campaign will be the beating heart of Battleborn. A lot has been made of the 25 characters, the competitive multiplayer modes that blend and adapt MOBA gameplay ideas, but a lot of people will just want a solid co-op shooter to sit down and enjoy with their mates. But the variety and the contrasting styles of those characters, of the 25 characters in the game, you can't deny it. And they have a really big impact on how you go about playing the game. Where Borderlands had 4 fairly well tuned and complementary characters to play at, there's now so many more combinations and up to 5 players, and so you have to, when you're going into a battle, you have to decide which characters are going to mix well and support one another. You need to try and have complementary styles of play for each character. You also have to deal with how several of the characters are centered around first-person melee combat, which is interesting to try and play. A lot of the time you're just going to have an enemy in your face as you're punching away. I have a bit of a soft spot for animals in mech suits in video games, so I was a bit disappointed to not be able to play and pick Toby, which is a penguin in a mech suit to start off with, and so I had to settle for a very different kind of character. Shayne and Aurox are a symbiotic pairing, and they made for a very curious character to play as. You've got this moody-looking teenager with this protective demon hovering over her, and they're designed to be on the front lines, soaking up damage and dishing it out in equal measure. They're a tank character, in other words, and demonstrate how the characters tend to fit into 3 loose archetypes. This pair's abilities see them able to go invisible, and you get close to enemies before pulsing energy to damage them. Another ability has Aurox sent off to grab an enemy and bring them closer to the pair or to your allies so that you can deal damage to them individually. And their ultimate attack is just this huge big area of effect blast, which is just going to wipe the floor with so many things. All the characters do also have some kind of ranged attack. So while this is a primarily melee and close quarters character, you do have a boomerang to throw. However, I could just as easily have played as Toby, tried to hang back with longer ranged weapons, arc mines, throwing up amplifying shields, or I could have switched to the mushroom-like Miko to be the group's healer, or something else entirely. There's also a lot to be said of the game's MOBA-like leveling system. Each level or online match that you play has your character starting at the basic level 1. And you then, over the course of 20-30 minutes, you level up at a really rapid pace. So each time you level, you get a point to spend on the Helix upgrade system, and you pick between 2 possible boosts to your character. It can feel a little bit inconsequential at times, but you're able to funnel your character down a particular route and favour one particular type of special attack over another one, for example. You can also pick things that you come to regret, though. When I did actually then play as Toby, I boosted his defense shield in such a way that it split the beam from his laser cannon. And the problem with this was that while I initially thought, yes, this is going to be great for dealing with crowds of enemies that are coming at us, it actually just meant that when I wanted to amp up my shots, I couldn't really hit anything, because I was never sure where the beams were going to be ending up. Put simply, I had made a build of this character which didn't suit me, and which I didn't really get on with. But the nice thing is that the next time I play a level, the next time I play as Toby, I'd be starting from scratch, and I'd be able to avoid making the same mistake. The story sees the last vestiges of civilization in the universe huddled around the very last star, and that's quite a powerful starting point anyway. Now, ordinarily, you can imagine that these disparate and strongly contrasting races would all be battling against one another, but they've actually been forced to unite under one banner in order to fight against the invading Varelsi and the turncoat Rendane, who is helping them to invade this galaxy and steal the energy from this sun. Rendane is only out to look after himself and his people, but you are the titular Battleborn, and you are all that stands in their way. So there's 9 story missions in the game, and there's also more which are coming after the game has been released. But that still doesn't really sound like a lot of missions, and Gearbox have had to try and keep the variety high in the missions, whilst also leaning on the replayability that you have in picking a different character in a different role, as well as just letting you try these missions again on a much higher difficulty level. So there's several ways that they dress up the fighting through enemies with narrative-led objectives. One mission that we played, called The Renegade, had Caldarius crash landing into enemy territory and needing to be rescued by activating 3 generators and then defending them from waves of enemies that are coming at you. Interestingly, this means that the first time that you play through it, you won't actually be able to pick Caldarius, because that would make sense in the story. But you will be able to go back and play as Caldarius to rescue Caldarius, which is confusing in its own right. But this was actually a mission that we failed as a group, with the onrushing enemies getting through our defences. We were both trying to protect a doorway, and also we had like turrets and drones following us around to help us out. And the enemies got in and they shot up the generator, and that was it. There's no second chances to be had here, and failure means that you have to start the mission over from the very beginning. It's pretty unforgiving sounding, and I'm sure that some people are not going to really like that, but at the same time, as we've seen with games like Dark Souls, people do like a difficult game. And so you've got this, you've got the advanced difficulty level. This is a game which will really force you to eventually play as a team and work together. Thankfully, we didn't fail on the other story mission which we played, which was called The Void's Edge. Instead of defending objectives, we were now on the attack, as we escorted a wolf sentry bot on its suicide mission to draw out a Varelsi demon monster thing and let us try and kill it before it was too late. And that wolf bot is constantly chatting away with inane banter, as you'd expect from a Gearbox game these days. But there's some nice twists to this gameplay. You're not just escorting him, you can chuck a few shards into the robot to give him like a minute with a self-defense weapon, or a minute of boosting the health of players that are nearby. And so it's not just a dumb bot, it's not just a dull thing that you're escorting and that you're following through. There are also some interesting level design choices, which gave us the option of splitting up so that we could lower a barrier quicker than if we were just trying to brute force our way through and fight off the enemies. And that was quite interesting and really fun to try and actually succeed at as well. The huge Varelsi boss at the end also had some really quite interesting attack patterns. Amongst other moves, we had to lower its shield in order to deal damage, which had me basically stood underneath it punching him in the face, which is always fun. And you also then have to adjust quickly to when it switches gears. There was one point where it was about to engulf us in a black hole, and so we had to rush around and take out 5 or 6 support bots which were trying to do it. One particularly memorable moment had me dragging one of these robots out of the black hole which the monster was creating, and be able to kill it at the very last moment. We were literally just seconds away from defeat. And that kind of moment is really cool. That one moment alone made me feel like we were kind of living up to Gearbox's self-aggrandizing tagline for the game, that this is a game for every kind of badass. Now, if you're interested in playing this game, you don't actually have to wait all that long to do so. Battleborn has got its open beta starting on April 8th on PS4 and on April 13th on PC and Xbox One. It'll give you 2 story missions, Void's Edge, which is the second one that I was just talking about, and also the Algorithm. You also have 2 of the game's competitive multiplayer modes, and all of the characters to play as, loot, gear, progression systems, all of this. You can explore all of that. The game itself then is out on May the 3rd, and that's all we've got time for today. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have done so, then please do click like so that we know that you liked it. If you'd like to see more videos like this, click on subscribe so that you can see what else we are up to with videos. And as always, head over to the6thAxis.com for more news, reviews, previews, features, and just general gaming stuff. Until next time, goodbye.